This is a knife made from an old file that I picked up in a junk shop in New Orleans. And the original intention was to use these templates, which are borrowed from another type of folding knife, and use the tail piece of the file to weld onto, create the thumb hole for a handle in order to open the blade. That was later revised. So the first step is to anneal the blade to make it softer so that it could be cut and shaped. And limited means, so using a blowtorch and just sort of covering it in hot sand so that it cools slowly. I actually ended up heating it for about half an hour before I poured the hot sand on it. I let it cool for about 6 hours and then took it out of the sand, and it had cooled thoroughly. And then to test whether or not the file was annealed adequately, I used another file to see if it would cut it. It seemed to have worked. Then use the old angle grinder to make the first main cuts, to cut them to kind of rough shape and size. Then trying to grind some of the texturing off the side of the file in order to make it kind of smooth and take off the rust, and also thickness it slightly as well.
So reattach the template, and I've had to redesign the blade slightly because the thumb hole was not going to work with that extra piece brazed onto there, because it wouldn't have got through the heat treatment process without falling off. So that's what we've got now. This is the spring, this is the blade, obviously, and I'm going to drill the holes and cut them out. Oh, so that's just flattened the nail rather than actually punching a hole. Try it with a proper punch. This is a 15 by 15 galvanized steel sheet, 0.7mm thick. It's going to be the sides of the knife. So the templates come off just with the oil. I have to put it back on again.
And to make the rivets, which are made of brass, I used a 3mm rod and a 2.5mm rod, and I created this jig thing to cut it to the right length, and then also to make the first end of the rivet by allowing it to protrude by a few millimeters. You can then hit it with a hammer so that it creates the splayed end on one end, and then that can go into the knife into the other end last of all.
I've made a third slightly smaller rivet for the centre, which is going to go through the spring. First test fit. This at least gives me an idea of how it's going to operate. So after a bit of pushing and pulling to get the pins in, and the spring's been adjusted by widening this hole, because obviously one of them was off centre, so I managed to get it working with a bit of a spring action. Got a nice click at the end. It's a bit stiff, but we'll see. Probably work out. I've just got to redo the sides now. So now is the time to bevel the blade. Clamped here is just to kind of set a bit of a fixed reference point of an angle of 6 degrees. So that's the bevel at 6 degrees, and I realised that it's going to take a long while to get to the middle. So after a lot of grinding and a bit of sanding, get it smooth at the top. That's the bevel that we've got. Waitrose finest peanut oil.
Now this important part is brazing a little nugget of silver solder onto the blade where I cut away too much, so that when it was open, it was actually opening too far and it was unsteady. So if I add a little blob of extra metal there, I can regrind and shape it so that it fits perfectly.